Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Stories That Inspire Us / the author series. Today, I have an amazing guest on, but before I formally introduce her, are your kids feeling stressed? Well, we have a lot of to chat about because my guest is the author of Finding Ecohappiness. She's also the founder and director of the Ecohappiness Project. So I am so excited to welcome and have this conversation with the amazing Sandi Schwartz. Welcome, Sandi.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Well, you're so welcome. And before we really get into the conversation, I want to read a little bit more on the back of your book, because I think this is really so important for the basis of our conversation. As I mentioned, I asked a question, and this is from the back of Sandi's book. Are you stressed? Are they feeling a bit down? Do your children and you need a break from screens? Your book is really such an amazing, in-depth way with nature activities for your children and for the parents to have fun, to help their kids to feel happier and calmer. And let's face it, these last couple of years, kids are stressed, therefore parents are stressed. Can you tell us why starting the Ecohappiness Project was that important to you?
Great question. The world, I think I started my original blog about 7 or 8 years ago. It was called Happy Science Mom. And I remember, and that was much broader. It was a little bit bigger than just nature. It was mindfulness and gratitude. It was and nature, but it was like all the positive psychology tools. And I remember when I kicked that off, my first post, it was a reaction to actually school shootings and just like the negativity and violence that our poor children were dealing with that, we didn't have to deal with when we were kids.
Right.
And so, I really, so between what was going on in the world and then what had gone on in my life through many years of, dealing with stress and anxiety, I had found a solution, or part of the solution, part of a puzzle of the solution, something that could help me was nature connection. And interestingly enough, my background, my studies, ever since college and actually prior, I cleaned up a dirty river in high school, and that really spurred my interest in environmental protection. But I went on to study the environment, and it all came to a head, where both my personal struggles with stress and anxiety and my interest to save the planet came together, and I realized, wow, nature can help us. We need to help nature. It needs to go, back and forth, and I wanted to share this with people, and I wanted it to be a toolkit. And I think of it as the toolkit that I wish my parents had for me when they were raising me, because it's filled with ways to feel happier and calmer. And I think we all need that now.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we certainly all do need that right now, not yesterday, but right now. And your book, or what you started, I should say, let me back up a little bit. You shared your personal connection with finding that eco-happiness, but also the mindful part of it, but in a way that the family can get together and enjoy nature on a different level, to connect with the land, to connect with the outside and feel calmer. And I think that is just amazing. When you were writing this book, I love to kind of ask this question. It must have been obviously from all of your different experiences. And, for instance, in one point where you are talking about virtual experiences and listening, but what I find so unique is where in some of the chapters, and I'm referring to the virtual experiences, it's really a cutting edge type of way for maybe somebody who's not near maybe inner city or can't get that they can still do that together. I mean, yes, we want to be away from our computers as much as possible, but they still can do it if they are anywhere really. So when you were writing this book, what would you say was your greatest challenge to really dive even deeper so that people could really understand and relate to it?
Great question. So my writing experience, I worked at the National Academy of Sciences, at Environmental Protection Agency, a consulting firm, and I was sort of trained, my whole kind of type of writing that I was trained to do professionally was, the public understanding of science, like write bullet points, be succinct, right? So you can see that throughout the book, that the information there, I wanted it to be clear and succinct. Science backed was also part of my pattern in my career training. And that part was easy for me, right? The research, that, all of that, the writing in a service journalism way was the simple part. For me, as you'll notice, I start a lot of the chapters with a personal story. That was where the challenge came in as a writer for me, pouring out, the very beginning of the book, where I lay out like these, bizarre physical sensations that I have experienced over the years. And it took, gosh, probably over 20 years, to really kind of figure it out and to now deal with it. And, it's taken a lot of resources. Nature connection is one of the components. And I do talk about that, therapy is important, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, which is, I'm looking at it through a nature lens, your diet, your sleep, all of that comes into managing our mental health. But right, pulling those stories out, was the challenge for me as a writer. But once I did it, it felt so good. And I also have to say that writing the book, and as I continue to write articles, writing overall, and I wrote this book through the pandemic, it was so therapeutic. That's like writing about nature for me. It's not only being in nature, but exploring it and finding out new information about it. That to me also helps me feel more balanced. So I love it.
That is so amazing, because I got to tell you, as you were describing that, I really was listening intently, but I felt what you were saying by your expression, by the tone of your voice. And I just pictured you sitting at your desk, like just jamming it out and writing your book, like really heart authentic and raw at sometimes. And I love how you also incorporated, for instance, you talk about obviously mindfulness, and you have a great quote in here by Mika Mortali. Being outside and exploring the natural world support a calm and alert state of mind, and learning to deepen and stabilize that state through breathing practices, meditation, and other techniques that connect you with nature can make your experience even more rewarding. And I think for you, you really took that to heart. Like you embrace that. And I see this like spider web just branching out, and all the people that you have touched with this book. What has this book meant to you? And I'm sure you've heard some amazing reviews on this book. What has that meant to you?
Yes, just yesterday I was doing a Facebook Live with a woman who is, an expert in green schools, at the preschool level. And to hear her reaction to the book, that she learned something new. Another person who's like, to me, a guru in the nature parenting world with hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. And she as well learned something new. And to connect with all these incredible people, I call them the practitioners, because at the end of the day, I'm really like the writer pulling the information together. And through this process of writing the book and marketing the book, talking about it, I have met so many amazing people who are in the trenches, who are working and connecting with people of all ages, whether the youngest children up until retirees, and how they can connect to nature. And so that was also a really fun part of the book, is all the people I interviewed. I have a lot of those call out text boxes where I wanted to bring in the stories because, as the author, I had some stories of myself, but, I'm not writing a memoir. I didn't have some like traumatic, huge thing happen to me. I wanted to bring in other people's stories and accomplishments and how they're pulling together, the intersection of nature and mental health. So yeah, that whole process was very rewarding, very exciting. And I learned so much during it, and I'm excited to share it with everybody else.
And that's amazing because for you, and I'm just feeling this, that it was a type of validation, not particularly for yourself, but a validation in knowing that you were helping others and that peers who are specifically in that realm were learning from you.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
I'm excited hearing about that. And I think that's amazing. And what I also love about this, there's so many things I love about this book, and I really could talk about this book for hours. You also touch upon foods to avoid that can trigger mental health issues. And I think that is so important. Of course, there are foods that trigger that. And then, of course, the balance of that is foods that we use to make us feel better. Why was that important for you to put that in the book?
Very interesting. And yes, as you're pulling this information together, some might say, well, that's drawing a pretty big leap from food to nature, but so much of the foods that help us are from nature, right? It's the natural components, it's the artificial stuff that's causing a lot of the problems. I had my doctor friend review that chapter, that section actually, and she has a book coming out. So it's so exciting. I'll have to introduce her to you.
Yes.
But yeah. So it's really exciting, so the food was important to me. One of the first things I did to manage my anxiety was to cut out caffeine. I would get so jittery, so I still stay away from caffeine. And just to, I was very interested in the pesticides and how that could impact. And it's fascinating. The research is still coming out, and that was something I wanted to highlight. But I wanted people to kind of pay attention to this, that, we hear about organics all the time. And, I wanted people to realize that, to think twice again when they're at the grocery store, and that the organics situation isn't just about the planet, it's about our health, and not just our physical health, but potentially they're finding a link to our mental health. So, it gives us another reason to choose those organic strawberries. And so, yeah, I just really felt that connection to the earth and food and pulling together gardening. There's so much research on the positive benefits of gardening. So yeah, I thought it was important if you're holistically looking at how nature can help our mental health.
And oh my gosh, you hit the nail on the head, because, think about what Hippocrates said, obviously many moons ago: let thy food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. So you have to wonder, from a standpoint where we are today with organic produce and any type of foods that come from the earth, and talking about the artificial segments and different ingredients that are in foods that, I can't even pronounce some of the words that, the chemicals or whatever they may be. So you have to wonder why people in this day and age are starting to have a lot of food allergies, which creates, of course, a mental type of awareness, like, oh my gosh, I can't eat that anymore. Why is that happening? And I think that, you even talk about in this book, which I find fascinating, can a plant-based diet improve mental health? And you say the simple answer is, we just don't know yet.
Right.
But it cannot hurt. Like, you really gave this book such great thought, but more importantly, how the food and the eco source works all together from planet to where we are with our mental health. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
And I think it's important as a science writer to always, be honest, right? Like part of the concern we get with some of the information we receive is that it's a blanket statement of yes, do this, or no, do that, and then it changes in 5 years, and then people get mad. And so I just wanted to really shine a light on some of these issues to say, keep an eye on it. There are researchers working on this right now. I mean, how about the soil bacteria? I mean, to me, that is one of the most fascinating nuggets that I found. And, they may potentially create an anxiety pill based on the fact, the bacteria, natural bacteria growing in soil that they found to help mice in particular, so far reduce anxiety. So, there's a lot of potential here for us to benefit from the earth, which again, my bottom line message at the end is protect it. Let's protect it because we need it. We need it for ourselves and for our own happiness.
Yes. And one of the first things that I did as I was reviewing your book, I like, because I'm nerdy when it comes to this stuff. I really am. Everybody knows I like to read and love to read and write. I love to go to the back of the book and look at the different resources, look at the books you suggest, look at the children's books. And then you have a conclusion. I'm like, oh my God, this book. And then where you researched and gathered your information. We're not just talking, well, maybe 5 resources. Like there's totally hundreds of resources.
And that was important to me. And I credit the publisher because I love the fact that there's an index as well. There are not that many parenting books on the shelf, that have an index. And, this is, it's more than a parenting book. I want it to be a resource, but let's say you're interested in learning about float therapy or awe. Awe is a very big topic now in the positive psychology world and happiness world. I want people to be able to find the book if they're researching awe. So, because there's a lot of information in that about that, but having the notes and having the resource lists and the index, I also, at the end of each chapter, there's an activity checklist and then an additional resource list. I just found that that's like so my personality, right? Like I love writing lists and I wanted to know how to find more information. So I felt like others would want that information as well.
And right. So this was more than just your book. This really, I think, was a manual for parents to take. And I don't think it's the type of book where you just start at the beginning. I really think it's one of those books. Like I said, I'm a nerd. I went to the back of the book first. Like, oh my God, I can't wait, And I have so many sticky notes on the book. It's kind of funny. But you really touched upon, how our children are struggling from, as I said, what types of foods might trigger stress. And it's so well balanced. How, for instance, when you are talking about I have a problem pronouncing this. This is totally me. Horticultural therapy.
Oh, yes.
And how getting children involved with, the planting the garden and, how it improves their confidence and their self-esteem.
Yes. I mean, interviewing that horticultural therapist was really eye-opening. And, a lot of these children, come from very challenging backgrounds, or emotional, physical, economic, all kinds of things. And they sometimes have never had that opportunity to even see a garden before, right? A lot of what I uncovered in my interviews, the same thing with Street Waves, the program that gets kids out to the ocean here. I live in Florida, and it's, a program right in my local area. And these are kids that, we all live 10, 15 minutes from the ocean around here. But these kids have never even been there because culturally and socioeconomically, they just don't go. And so, I really, the horse therapist too, right? So the theme, there's a theme in here too of like the access of nature and how kids, this can help so many different types of kids, right? It can help your suburban affluent child who's stressed out with, all their AP classes, all the way to a child living in a city that has no resources. And then, that was really important to me for the families and for anyone reading it, that somewhere in this book, you can find something to build a nature habit. And a lot of it is free. You don't have to go to Hawaii in a elaborate vacation. You can literally go on a balcony or, a local park, and really there's so many benefits to it. So that was very important to me to make it accessible.
I love that, accessible. And you also chatted about when working in the garden, especially together, about finding that common ground.
Yes.
Why was that so important to you?
The one about the permaculture and the peace garden?
Yeah,
Or
where
the
you're
horticulture?
the horticulture, you're
Mhm.
it was talking about finding common ground in the garden.
Well,
I
yeah.
I think it's so fascinating that you touched upon that.
Yeah, I think another big theme is just getting back to the basics. We've made life so complicated, and when you put people of all backgrounds into the basics of nature, doing something that might be artistic or challenging, it could be a camp experience where you're doing a ropes course or learning how to garden, which can be very challenging. It just kind of brings everyone to the same level, and they're the same experience because they're learning at the same time, and it's just refreshing and therapeutic to be outside in nature. So yeah, I just think it's at the end of the day, right? We're all animals. It's an instinct to want to connect to nature, and that no matter what else is going on in our lives and who we are and all the other complications we made as humanity, nature is where we came from. So that's where we can go to feel better.
That is so true. And it made me think when I was a child and my parents sending me to summer camp, which was a 4-H type of summer camp. And I remember it just brings back so many happy memories, working with the camp counselors and being outside, connecting to nature, but also, we did the garden thing, and I thought it was amazing. And I don't even know if there is a 4-H anymore. I have no idea.
Yes, there is. Yeah,
there is.
They're a big organization. Yes.
Well, that's good to hear because, of course, I have so many fond memories of that, and, going home and all dirty from head to toe. And, what better way to have a good time than be out in nature? I just think that's absolutely fascinating. I'm curious to know, what is the next project for you?
Well, it was a lot of work to write a book, and marketing the book is even harder. I actually have an article coming out about that in the ASJ magazine about do-it-yourself marketing and how research and writing was the dream for me. The rest of it is a little bit more difficult. But, what I've kind of gotten already back into is writing, shorter versions of these kinds of pieces. So back into my environmental journalism and really honing in on sustainability, nature and mental health connection, green living. To me, it's all just like, it's all connected. For example, this particular book is about the nature and mental health connection, but another really important thing for me is I try to green my closet, and I've thought of, maybe one day writing a book about that experience of, it's so challenging with sustainable fashion and the whole fashion industry. So, I think it's really even, it's building that entire kind of connection to nature and the environment. My license plate says eco girl, it's really,
Oh my gosh.
who I am. But yeah, I want to continue to write. That's really where my love is, and write about more of these topics. And there's always new information coming out. So, so keep an eye out for my name online.
Oh yeah, you are certainly on my radar for sure. I just absolutely love this book, and I can't say enough good things about your book. And
Thank you. That feels so good to hear.
really the love that you put into this book, like you pick this book up and it's weighty.
Yes.
And if you're nerdy like me, you go to the back of the book first. And it really shows you the depth and knowledge, but your love of creating and finding eco-happiness. Absolutely fascinated by your book. I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. And the other thing that I have to credit the publisher is all the colorful pictures in the book, which
Yes.
you rarely see as well. I mean, he was
Right.
adamant about it. And, because it does have a lot of, like you said, it's a little thick with data information, but you also get that inspiration from those photos. So
Oh,
that was fun to
without
put
a
together.
doubt. Without a doubt. And I just want to show the book again. I've got a lot of Finding Ecohappiness by Sandi Schwartz. Go purchase this book. My gosh. Sandi, before we sign off, where can our viewers and listeners get in contact with you?
Yes, head over to ecohappinessproject.com, and I have tons of blog posts and articles and some free downloads, a free quiz. You'll get to rewatch this as well, because I post all of my interviews up there as well. And the book is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org, and anywhere books are sold, so Walmart, Target, just go to the websites and grab your copy.
Wonderful. Wow. And of course, I will make sure that all of your contact information is in the show notes. Sandi, I hope that you will definitely consider coming back again. We have so much more to chat about your book and catch up on where you are with different things going on for you. Wow. Thank you again so much. And I just want to share with everyone, this really is one of those books. It's a must-have. I'm telling you, go to the Amazon link, order the book. And of course, when you order anyone's book online, please make sure that you leave them a review. That really helps them and show them the love that they so well deserve. Finding Ecohappiness. I know that I found my eco-happiness, because really, these are the stories that inspire us. The author series today, completely mesmerized and inspired by the amazing Sandi Schwartz. Thank you so much, everyone. Final thought, if you have a story to share, it's that important. Someone needs to hear it. Go to my website, click on the link, and register as a guest. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Bye for now.